Dear Inge, you come right beside me. Hi. Inge, can you, yes, no, Inge.
Inge next to Billy.
Inge, my dear Inge, right here. Yes. Or is it? It's because Sonia is not here. Okay. All right. How are you doing? It's the end of the day, but we still have a dedicated crowd, which is great. Let's go straight into it. So, and I'll start with you, Inge, because you're right next to me. Radisson is part of the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, represented with Glenn here, and that already provides that platform for cooperation, as we know. But you're also involved in various networks, in fact, of non-competitive collaboration on many issues, including climate change. Can you tell us a bit more about all of this, where Radisson has collaborated successfully? How did that develop? How was the implementation phase of that collaboration? And perhaps why you think collaboration is so critical for impact, just to get us started.
Absolutely, with pleasure. Very happy to be here. So first of all, with Radisson, we're 1,300 hotels in 95 countries and 10 brands. So that's not the biggest, but not the smallest. But what we certainly know is that there's many things we're not bad at in sustainability, but there's also many things we can learn from others. So I think that our story with the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, or its predecessor names, goes back to the very beginning, and that's almost 30 years ago, I think. So in that sense, we always were very open to collaborating with our peers. And I think if we go back to that early beginning, it was very focused on providing resources and tools. I still remember it was before my time, but my predecessors in the company, we made this big book of environmental advice for hotels on the technical side. I still have a copy of it. But over time, this has evolved. Then we started to define tools collectively for the industry. Because it's important that we, when new topics come up, like regenerative tourism, that we actually look at this and say, what can we do together? So we defined a hotel carbon measurement tool, and we defined a hotel water measurement tool. And all these things were fantastic. But I think in the last few years, specifically since the pandemic, the context has changed. We need to become net zero by 2050. And you know how the saying goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Now the point is we need to go both fast and far with this net zero transformation. So that's why today being part of the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance is great, because beyond developing resources and tools, what we now do is really thinking about what is our common pathway to this net zero and even beyond. And what we also do is thinking about how can we accelerate, and that's thanks to Glenn, who is next to me, and thanks to Xenia also, is how can we provide financing and really accelerated programs in certain places.
Very good, and perhaps this is, I know Glenn, you'll probably say that, but a lot of those tools are actually available free of charge, wonderful, onto the platform at the Alliance. I don't know if the audience is aware of that sometimes, that everything that you do is actually available pretty much to everyone.
Yes, that's right, we're a global charity, and as such, it is available to all hospitality, whether you're a member of the Alliance or not.
Yeah. Should we get Sonia on board?
Yes, can we see if we can have our digital colleague?
So I don't know if you know, but there's a strike going on. I think it's the talk of ITB.
Oh, yes, there is Sonia.
There we go, all right.
Sonia, can you hear us?
I can hear you perfectly well. Thank you for welcoming me in this unconventional or more conventional way. We've gotten used to that.
That's right.
Yes, and there's a strike.
There is a strike. Anyway, Sonia, questions to you straight away. So you are a co-founder of the Land Banking Group, which, for those of you who haven't heard about it, it's a moonshot project to revolutionize the way we value and use land, right? And this is at a moment where ecosystem services are so crucial, and they're prerequisites for an equitable, a resilient, and a climate-compatible prosperity and peace, and that affects us massively in tourism, and also for regenerative tourism. So you support land stewards to create and valorize the land that they use. So land stewards can be farmers, but they can also obviously be tourism destinations. So Sonia, tell us a little bit, as a newcomer in a way to this sector, to the tourism sector, how do you see the land banking group working? How do your services and what you do can support this transition to net zero and net positive that we have?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, if I think of travel, I think, of course, of joy, of relaxation, of sports, of beauty. We just had this short video of Oman before. And this has been impacted massively by the change of the climate, and we've seen tourists increasingly being trapped in floods, in wildfires. So there is a change of this feeling of relaxation, and that's why it's not sufficient to work in a very local and very individual way on sustainability, and that's why I appreciate the incredible work the Alliance is doing. So we have to work together more with a landscape approach on how do we take care of this wonderful beauty, this breathtaking beauty that we really want to dive into during our holidays. And what we can do is we really value and pay and monetize the contribution land stewards. These can be farmers, this can be landowners, this can be forest owners, this can be indigenous groups, this can be local communities. The custodianship they take to keep the beauty alive and to build more than extractive crops or to log woods, but create the landscape that we dive into for our relaxation. This can be taken into a scheme of rewards. And this is something where the tourism industry can play a major role in guiding, in integrating, and in building communities of supporters of natural capital, how we call it, these distinct creations of nature that is not being extracted and transported somewhere else.
Sonia, well, this is Willie speaking. While we have you online, do you have already a project that you're involved with that has that stakeholder together cooperation towards that common outcome? Do you have a project you could share with us, or?
Well, there's a good example, which is when we talk about Europe, which is in the area of the Lake Constance, where, for example, the owners of land, the farmers, the forest owners, but also the companies in the area, and particularly the tourism in the area, are working together on how to reward the land stewards for the contribution to the value, the regenerative value for people in the area, how this can be paid for, rewarded, and it's also supported by banks that are pre-financing the investments to increase and regenerative the natural ecological health of the area.
Thank you.
And the good news is when we're talking about collaboration, that's where the SMI comes in again, because we're bringing in some of the players from other sectors to finance that exact project and to maybe ensure that project that Sonia's talking about. So this goes back to we all need to work together to make something like that work. Now, Sonia is obviously digitally. If anybody's got any questions, I do think we have a QR code. I believe we have a QR code for Slido. I'm not sure if that...
We have otherwise mics. This is a small audience, so we'll be able to go around with mics.
If there are questions, we'll take them at the end, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to Glenn.
Yes.
Glenn, you're here with
Glenn,
two hats
you're on the hot seat. You ready?
Yeah, you're in the hot seat.
Idea, yeah, very good. Yeah.
But we've asked you here with two hats on. Obviously, you are the CEO of the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, and Inge's just been really advertising for you for free, what you do. But you're also here as the chair of the Hospitality and Tourism Task Force within the Sustainable Markets Initiative. So can I ask you to talk a little bit more about the Terracotta Accelerator that we funded or that we've launched within the SMI and how you see tourism sort of coming into that?
Absolutely, and it's a great follow-up from what we just talked about.
Yeah.
So for those that aren't aware, Sustainable Markets Initiative is an organization established by then Prince, now King Charles III, who brought together a number of the economic sectors to really start talking about sustainability. So whether you're in aviation, healthcare, technology, even space, are leaders at the CEO level around the table talking and advancing sustainable movement. And very fortunate that Xenia was a big inspiration in helping us establish a hospitality and tourism task force amongst all those other economic sectors to ensure that we had a voice, because we would have been left out of the bigger conversation globally if we didn't really move and act very fast. Within that context, one of the significant or signature projects of the SMI is the establishment of the Terra Carta Accelerator Fund. And you know, it was interesting, the Terra Carta initiative itself is a commitment that the King Charles has identified for all of us to aspire to in terms of our commitments to the environment and to people. But within that context, we needed to invest and see how we can attract new investment from the philanthropic sector, from the private sector, towards initiatives that you just heard from Sophie around. And it's really important that we see this fund. And one of the most interesting things, it was established, the goal was to get 50 million in place for land-based and water-based initiatives. It's already raised 125 million of private equity into the program. The idea is that it's not just philanthropic money, it's actually money that will come back to those original investors, because it's, again, it's monetizing and valuing investment into nature-based projects. And so there's a real excitement around this, and within tourism, there's around ecotourism, obviously ecotourism initiatives and creating ecotourism experiences. The real focus on restoration and restorative tourism and looking at mangrove restoration, for example, or coral reef restoration. And a number of the companies within the Alliance have identified these areas as priorities within their particular plans. And this investment program will be able to pool those resources and actually make things a reality a lot quicker than simply talking about it. So it's an exciting initiative, a lot of motion going on within the CEOs of the hospitality industry around this topic to move this conversation forward and invest in projects like we just heard about.
Can we have, perhaps could we have the, my dear colleagues at the Tech Center to put that one infographic, you have the one Terra Carta infographic, maybe we can have that on the board if we want to refer to it actually, and also for the audience that might be useful. It's going to come. It's going to be here, the Terra Carta infographic, if you have it.
There we go.
There it is. Do you want to say a few words about that?
Fundamentally, you see down the middle, the Alliance's focus is on net positive hospitality. So really being an industry that gives back to the community and the destination than we take out. And based on that, and down the center pillar of that is 4 pillars of people, planet, place, and prosperity. And in order for us to be a contributor, you can see within the context of all the elements on this stage, you know, you got to look at finance, you got to look at monitoring, you look at the impact of this, and the actual coordination through an acceleration that actually happens at the local level. So you can see all the players, and actually all the players that you see on this stage fit within these categories as we go along. So I'm going to leave it at that, but I know...
It's very exciting, and I think you can all refer at some point back to this, to where you see you fit best. Maybe we can ask Sophie to just come into this. You entered the tourism sector last year with a report. It's called Better Tourism, Better World. And you're now in a process, and I think we'll have the QR code a bit later, of establishing that collaboration between C40 and Accor. Maybe you can say a few words about C40. I was in a minute as well. You've released that white paper on this private-public collaboration between cities and the hotel sector. So this is quite interesting. Can you tell us more about this?
Very happy to, Willy. Let me maybe start with that report that you mentioned. So we are an organization that works towards the achievement of the Paris Agreement, our 1.5 degree goal, as well as the implementation of the SDGs. And we do this by looking at systems or value chains and understanding how they are interacting. And yeah, it was a pleasure to look at the tourism sector in that work that you mentioned. One, because we see how much it has delivered, how it continues to deliver on that promise that I think a few of you have also mentioned, of experience, of joy, exploring the world. And it actually continues and does so for more and more people, which is wonderful. But we also see with the huge impact that it comes with when it comes to resources, climate change. And what we found was a very fragmented sector that actually collaborates very little and sets little goals as a sector to work towards jointly. And so with that work, what we wanted to do was two things. One, to show what could a different tourism sector look like and what could it deliver on, which speaks to that regenerative vision that Glenn has also shared with us. And then second, that collaboration also in the tourism sector is possible, giving a lot of examples. And then actually that work with C40 and hospitality now is going the next step. What we want to do there is really show how interests are aligned in a place-based approach, because we strongly believe that change needs to happen in destinations. It needs to be very concrete and speak to the issues of a specific place, if it's about water, if it's about waste or heat. Examples, I think we've seen a lot. 50%, I think, less tourists in the south of Spain because of heat. So there is a clear alignment of interests between the cities that want to address these issues, but also the hospitality sector and wider tourism industry in addressing these issues. So this latest work with C40 is really leveraging that C40 network. For those that don't know it, it's really directly, the mayors are involved in this network, ambitious mayors that want to drive change with regard to sustainability. And showing that collaboration, direct collaboration with the hospitality sector is possible and can bring action on the ground and results on the ground. So
this is great. This is great. I just make a quick bracket because I know we want to talk about C40 a little bit, but because we have Sonia and we have to ask Sonia something. I have a question for, no, not that we have to, but we have to say goodbye to you after because of camera issues. So Sonia, we have a question. That graphic we just had, so this infographic, we see the land banking group. I don't know if there's a way we can get the graphic again. This infographic, that'd be great. You see the land banking group in two positions. Before we say goodbye to you, Sonia, can you explain to us a little bit your role? So how does that work as sort of this accelerator towards net positive? If you can say a few words, that'd be great.
I'd love to, and thank you, Sophie. That actually is a wonderful segue. This entire fragmentation of activities in a multi-crisis situation where we have increasing risk of climate change hazards, of climate change challenges for the tourism, means we need to have a shared understanding of where the risk exactly lies, what kind of risk is, for example, to be expected on the Iberian Peninsula. We're talking about the reduction of tourism or just by heat. It's going to need clear understanding of where's the risk coming from, what measures can we take to mitigate those risks, and they will usually be landscape connected. So it's something where we need to work as an alliance. So what we can do as the land banking group, we provide an automated and structured measurement system that monitors over time how the natural health, how the ecological health of every piece of land, pixel by pixel, is developing. And if we take some investment, that's the other side of the same string, and try to have positive impact as a community, as an alliance, as a single company, by investing, you mentioned, Glenn, the mangroves. It could be some biodiverse forests to somehow reduce monocultures, reduce pest influence from either bugs or fungi, to reduce fire risk because we increase the water holding capacity and the soil moisture, the wetness of the ground. This will improve the beauty and the resilience of the areas where we as a tourism industry welcome our guests. And if this has an impact, this investment, we again then monitor so that it's a continuous cycle of taking an initial balance of what is nature like, what is our natural capital, today, what can we do to make it more resilient against the upcoming risks that we see and that are being forecasted by all reasonable scientists? And if we try to invest into improvements, how does this really improve, again, the resilience of the area and the natural natural hideaway we love so much when we go on holidays?
That's great. Thank you so much, Sonia. We have to say goodbye to you. Sonia Stortay, you are a managing partner, co-founder of the Land Banking Group, which you have here. Thank you so much for being here, Sonia. Yes, thank you, of course. And Xenia, I'm going to pass on to you for, if we can have from the tech guys the other slide for the C40, and then we can pick up on that where we left.
Yes, because the next question was really to Inge, having heard about C40, right?
Nope. Next one. Another one? Is this C40, is the one pager, not this? It doesn't matter, go ahead.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So over to you, having heard what Sophie just talked about with C40 and the intention, where do you see a company like Radisson sitting in that? Is that something that Radisson will get itself involved in, or also you just heard about the Terracotta Accelerator, those sort of things that, immediately ring some bells within your head and go, yes, that's something that we can, start working with as well?
Yeah, I would say that what I was speaking about before, the acceleration and the financing is really what we need. So you could think of, for example, one of our hotels in Aarhus, they take their bio-waste, so the waste, the organic waste, they put it in a digester and they reuse that heat. That's one hotel in one location. What if we could do that together in the city with all the hotels and all the restaurants? Then you are talking about a completely different impact. Same for example, EV chargers. We are committing to roll them out in all our hotels in Europe. We're doing this even in Turkey, in India, in other locations. We even installed one in Brunei. But that is like, again, it's always the Radisson hotels. What if we could create green transportation networks in certain locations altogether? We have a bamboo farm in one of our resorts in Vietnam, and that is to phase out single-use plastics and actually start using the bamboo straws as straws. Okay, that's one thing. We do native landscaping. What if we could do this in all the hotels in that particular island? So my answer would be, if it is really connected to what we do and to the issues that we are trying to solve, absolutely, I would be happy to put this forward to our leaders, to be involved with resources, whether they are human or financial or both. But I do think we need, and the powerful element that Systemic brings forward with this report is the destination. The destination, whether that is a city of the C40 network or whether it is island destinations, that's really the element that we need to bring in, because we cannot just do it as the private sector or as the hotel companies. We really need that connection to the local government to make sure that we cross the silos, maybe, of industries, that we connect to the real needs in the destination. And also, which is the other side, that we bring that to the travelers. We need to then communicate about it to the travelers so that it makes the destination and those partners who work together more attractive. So I think it's a winning combination.
If we can, because we made mentioning that report, and maybe if I can look at the tech guys, there must be one slide. It's a systemic slide with a QR code. I really want the audience to actually have if you can find that slide with a QR code for that report, that'd be great. I'm looking at you guys. Hopefully you pick this up. And I turn straight to you, Glenn. So Glenn, as the Alliance, you are yourself a unit of collaboration. But of course, as an Alliance, you also have multiple collaboration parallel to all of this. So which one do you say has been successful in some ways in terms of real impact? Like, do we have one that you say, this is working really well? Can you share it with us?
Well, I have to say, there's a lot. There is many examples. I mean, you pointed out, just having the alliance alone is it a significant achievement. You know, nearly 50% of the global hospitality industry in terms of the number of rooms is engaged within this conversation effectively around the world, focused on, in a pre-competitive way, sustainability, openly sharing IP between Radisson and Marriott and Hilton. And you don't see that in any other element, quite frankly, in tourism and hospitality and beyond. Mm-hmm. And it's really powerful. Destinations is critical. When we talk about net positive hospitality, it is about giving back to the destination. And so there are many examples over the years from the tools that Inga has referenced and the HCMI. It was all developed by the industry, for the industry, HWMI, the pathway to net positive, and all the steps involved and the guidance materials to support that. It was very intensive looking at people and planet initiatives and how we as an industry want to be proactively moving forward. But then when we talk on the ground, we have a program called an accelerator program that actually has been engaged on the ground with local hotel companies. So for example, I just came out of Cairo and there was a graduation of an employability program that helps disadvantaged youth engage in the hospitality industry. So we provide the mentorship, the training, and ultimately a job. 70 hotel companies actively around the world are engaged in that initiative, whether they're a member of the Alliance or not. It's involved thousands of graduates over the years. There's been a lot of work on supply chain, and we've been really looking at initiatives in Morocco, for example, and in North Africa around how to maximize the fish industry and get more localized work on that. Food waste in Hong Kong, and how we can, again, look at ways of reducing food waste, but also what do we do with the food waste that inevitably will happen and use it for other purposes. So, you know, there are many examples the industry has come together on and have tackled.
No, I know, it's great. And I mean, there's one that you haven't mentioned, but I've been using it. It's a net positive hospitality simulation.
Well, I'm glad you're doing it. This is good. I love all the people.
No, but it's a little bit of a pitch because I'm an educator. So, of course, I like, but you know what? It's not only for educators, it's for anyone, in fact. As a hotel, to use that simulation is absolutely amazing. It's really great to engage everyone on that net positive. And what does that mean? To go beyond net zero and to go into net positive, that simulation it works wonders.
If there's one more last example I can give is the Sustainable Hospitality Challenge, which is a competition of over 70 universities globally that work and compete against each other, quite frankly, to come up with new innovation to move sustainability along. And there are so many hotel companies that are benefiting.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. We're still, if I can ask the tech guys, if you can look at the slide again, systemic slide for the QR code for our audience. Christophe, I'm looking at you. You got it? Okay. There's one slide with systemic, and there's a QR code for you, actually, so you can have access to that report. Yes.
Exactly, and that brings us to the question to Sophie, because now you've launched that new C40 report. What further stakeholders are you planning on bringing to the table for that conversation? And what are your next steps, basically, to drive that collaboration forward?
Great. I think a great question in this moment,
yes.
Because I think we are really in the moment of networking. So C40 is talking to their network. We have already checked interest, and yes, the cities, there are a few that are definitely interested and on board, but we are talking to more. We are talking to the SHA, we are talking to the SMI. We are basically seeing how can we make sure we don't duplicate, but really bring the efforts together, but leverage this destination city entry that we have with the tourism sector to really bring something on the ground. I saw you found it. Thank you so much for the effort. Because yes, also to anyone in the audience, this is really the moment to come together and see how we can work on this effort together and make it real.
Great. I think we've already come to our end, but we will take questions.
Let's do this.
Let's take questions with the last panel. I think we have the luxury to
We're going to have a mic
overdraw.
going around. Any questions to our panelists?
Any questions from the audience? Or, no, we've lost the QR code.
Or you're all waiting, they're all waiting to go to a party, I think. We have somebody very dedicated to bring a mic around. Hey, here you go.
Get this financing. How to apply for that financing? Was
Yeah, so in March, at the end of March, the full criteria will be presented out. So I think it's, you know better than I on this topic.
Are you talking about the
Yes,
Terracotta Accelerator?
So it's March, is it?
Yeah, end of March, we're closing the funding. Once the funding is closed, there will be we will launch sort of an application form for projects to then apply for the funding, and then they will be vetted. So there's 5 land-based and 5 ocean-based projects that we're looking to finance, and any applications will be welcome after that.
One more question. Last round, last chance. Or you can talk to them after. Let's move around. It's 17:45. Thank you so much to our panelists, please. Xenia, Sophie, Inge, Glenn, it's been great. And I know I know you're just about to go. Just a quick heads up. This was day 2 on Blue Stage. Thank you, everyone, of course, and all the panelists and all the speakers today. It's been quite intense. I know you're off to dinners and parties now, but be there early tomorrow. Tomorrow is a day of strike, so there's nothing else to do. Right? And go and stay here. Come and join us, because on this stage it will be amazing. And next door at the orange stage, if biodiversity is your cup of tea, if ecosystem restoration, if greenwashing, greenhushing, blue washing, if radical changes is your thing, it's next door, orange stage tomorrow, starting at 10:30. See you then. Thank you so much.